Hey y'all, it is I, Anthony the Canadian Guy, and welcome to Wrestlesode. Today, we are honking with the Candian Goose, Kyle Shaw. That's right, this is actually the third time that I've got to speak with Kyle. He was one of my very first interviews that I ever did at my first media show, which was Clandestine back in 2019. I got to sit down and have a mini interview with him. And so this is actually interview number 3. Now, it's been a couple of years since our last one. Things have changed dramatically over the last couple of years, as you all know. So we get to talk about that. We see what he's been up to the last couple of years, how he's done his training, and what his plans continue to be. We also had a really fun live Q&A section. So I really hope you guys get to enjoy honking with the Candian Goose today as much as I did. Now, if you are listening to this on Tuesday, August 2nd, tonight, over at twitch.tv/JupiterVision, we're going to be interviewing Gigi Ray live. Now, Gigi Ray has appeared all over the place recently. She recently had a match for the NWA World Women's Championship against Camille. She has competed in the Sherry Martel Classic recently. She is trained at the Booker T School. She's been on AEW a couple of different times. So she's doing really well for herself, Edmonton Millwood's own Gigi Ray. So I can't wait to have that conversation with her. So if you're going to be on tonight, remember to tune into that. But for right now, we're going to be chatting, we're going to be honking with the Candian Goose, Kyle Shaw. Now, before we get into it, if you do like this, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. If you liked it, don't forget the notification bell. And please leave a comment about who you would like to see here appear on Wrestlesode, or leave a comment about anything. If you have a question for any of these wrestlers, we can try to answer this later if we've missed something important that you would like to have answered. So let us know. Anyways, let's get right into it. Here's our interview with the Candian Goose, Kyle Shaw. How are you doing, buddy? It's been a while. How are you?
I'm surviving. I'm alive.
Well, that's always good news. That's always great. First, I have to ask, simply because they're there. What is with these two gigantic posters behind you? Because those are so cool looking. How did you get those?
One of the wrestling fans, Denise, gave me those. She gave me this one. She gave me that one. This one here actually is it's not only pictures of me, but it's pictures of like me next to pictures of Mick Foley, like the comparison shots, which I find actually really cool because Mick Foley is like one of my biggest inspirations. And then like you look at the photos of him and then me side by side, and it's like freaky how they kind of suit each other.
Oh, absolutely. So you find you get a lot of inspiration in your character, especially these days, from Mick Foley?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. We just did a street fight match. There was a street fight tag team match. It was me and my new tag team partner in Calgary, Danny Mayhem, against Kato. And it was supposed to be Steven Styles, Squig, but I guess he was injured, so they subbed him out for Tony Machete. And so it ended up being me and Danny against Tony and Kato. And everybody had been telling me that I was like channeling Mick Foley, or they were getting Mick Foley vibes from my like promos lately and stuff. So I did a full on, like, I wore a Cactus Jack t-shirt during my promo, and I had them play like Born to Be Wild or whatever. And I cut the promo there, and then when we showed up for the show, I was like, why don't we, me and Danny here, we'll both wear Cactus Jack t-shirts out to the ring, and we'll come out to Cactus Jack's entrance music, and we'll do like Mankind's moves and stuff during the match, and it'll be fun.
Did you do any mandible claws? Like, did you get somebody?
No, we did a double rock bottom.
Nice.
And we did a double people's elbow. Yeah.
Did you do what is it? It's that DDT that he does? Did you lift the guy up and do that DDT, that falling DDT? I can't remember what he calls it.
He does like a double underhook DDT, like it's just a butterfly DDT. I don't think he has a special name for it or anything other than, underhook DDT. But no, I actually didn't. But I would like to add that one to my arsenal, because I'd feel like if I hooked his arms for it and then flapped his wings a couple of times before I DDT'd him, that'd be pretty cool. Maybe we should add that to your arsenal, because that's pretty cool. That's like a good visual, right? You go there, you're like, honk, straight into a DDT. See, it's already been a really productive night. We're already doing a creative meeting here. Yeah. I mean, you could do the same thing. I've had the same idea for, like, if I full Nelson the guy and then did it, and then maybe did up into the Bubba Ray Dudley style, like full Nelson Bubba Bomb or full Nelson Atomic Drop type thing.
What you do is you get him into the chicken wing, and you both do it.
I have used the chicken wing in matches before.
It makes sense. You're the goose, right? I gotta say, first up, in terms of like not necessarily a gimmick, but like the personality that really encompasses Kyle Shaw, the Canadian Goose, I love it because one, geese are so graceful and beautiful, and you just don't fuck with a goose, man. You just don't, because they're evil as well. They're just like this. They walk down like literal highways, like in gangs of like three of them, and you got to avoid them. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're to cause trouble, right?
Yeah, they're I like part of the reason I like it so much is like I will, pardon me, excuse me, occasionally go down these little rabbit holes and watch like, there's Aussie Man reviews and stuff on YouTube, and he'll see him. He puts up videos of geese like fighting against tigers and fighting against. There's goose versus an elephant, goose versus a cow. Like the geese just don't care.
They're
Like they
fearless.
won't back down from anything. Like literally, I saw a video of a goose fighting a tiger, and the tiger was like, "Oh fuck this noise! I'm out of here." Like
They get surprised because like the attitude of a goose, man, right? Because like they're just like a tiny little goose, but like then they get up and they like open their wingspan, they like double in size. Their honk is really loud, and then they give you that look, and then they just start chasing you, and you're just like, I'm out of here, like that.
yeah, it's one of my favorite parts about it. Is like it's not like a fearsome looking creature, but they're completely fearless. And I've had to adopt that mentality when I gone to the ring a couple of times against people that I just like. I'm standing there and I'm looking at the picture of the two of us, and I'm like, yeah, this guy should just absolutely destroy me. But if I back down, then I'm not being a goose, and so you got to stand your ground.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. People would underestimate you, right? I mean, that's what they did in the It's a Clusterfuck, It's Not a Clusterfuck, right? Back over at Clandestine. The winner, obviously, the Canadian Goose, Hong Kong.
Yeah, that was a tremendous one. I had a lot of fun doing that. Is that what the last time we did an interview?
No, well, we did one interview then. We did like the mini interview just before that night. We did do another interview back in early 2020, I want to say it was, when we were back on the first season. And I was like, you know what? We got to have the Goose back. So you're like my third time back member, essentially. But it's because I love you, man. I love chatting with you. It's like, always, you're one of my oldest friends in this business, as I like to say.
I appreciate you having me on, man. Yeah, no, I like to come on and do these kind of things and stuff, and I'm not usually the one that's like getting interviewed, so it's kind of nice for me, for a change.
Well, that actually brings me to something. I mean, we don't have to do it right now. We can leave it till the end because it's a little bit like a cliffhanger there. But you've got a big announcement regarding Monday Night Shaw, is that correct?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, yeah, we'll save that for the end. So if people are excited for that, we'll spoil that here. But what else have you been up to, man? Like honestly, like 2020 happened, the pandemic came. It hasn't went yet, I wouldn't say, but thankfully things have kind of slowed down a little bit. The world has slowly started to open. Shows have been happening. What have you been up to, man?
Wrestling.
Yeah.
Just
the best answer you could give, right?
Yeah. Pretty much like almost every weekend I've been wrestling and stuff, and I'm just so grateful because I love doing it. So I'm very happy. The what are we calling it? The pandemic.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a very unpleasant thing, but fortunately, like in RCW, Steven Styles, life finds a way for RCW shows to run. So we pretty much we didn't miss that many shows because unless it was like straight up, they told us we absolutely cannot legally run. We did.
Yeah, you guys always found a way, right?
Yeah.
Like, you did the social distancing, you minimized crew as much as you possibly could. You wanted to try to make sure that things stayed alive, which was amazing. And you've been wrestling for RCW and CWE as of lately, right?
Yeah. I've been doing a few shots with CWE lately. I did a tour of Saskatchewan with them last month, which I had a lot of fun. Wrestling in Yorkton was amazing.
Yeah,
against Danny Duggan. Because I might be a little bit maybe not so much a fan favorite over in RCW anymore, but in CWE I was total baby face. And
People were
so
honking with you down in Yorkton.
oh, we went to Yorkton, and Danny Duggan came out. And he's just come back from America,
And
and I
he's got
guess
that America gimmick
yeah
kind of a thing with the one.
he's
Yeah.
he hits the ring with his full on American flag Zubaz on, an American flag leather jacket, and he's waving around an American flag, and then he cuts a promo, pro America promo, and anti Canada, anti Saskatchewan, And so literally like the whole place started singing the Canadian national anthem at him while he was cutting his promo. And I was like,
Wow, that's amazing. That's got to be
yeah.
so cool to have been heard, right?
Oh yeah, I was adorned in my Canadian flag jacket and had my Canadian flag and all my Canadian flag gimmicks ready to go. And I just like I'm in the gorilla position and I'm standing there and I looked at Shawn Mendes. I was like, I don't even know if you should hit my music, man. I'll just walk
to
out
that
to this because they're singing. But anyway, I did wait for my music and then we went out and yeah, as soon as they saw me, the whole place lost their minds and. Like they were honking the entire match. At one point during the match, I did a Bronco Buster on Danny Duggan, and during the course of the Bronco Buster, the bottom rope broke, just snapped and broke off the ring, and then he rolled to the floor, and I did a suicide dive to the floor onto him, which is not normally. It's like the Canadian Goose. When you think about him, you don't generally think of high risk offense.
The Goose flew anyway, that day, right?
Yeah, whatever. So I did the straight on suicide dive, and I still went through the top of the middle, even though the bottom had broken off. And I probably would have been easier for me to go under the middle, but yeah, it was a good time. Fans lost their minds. It was a lot of fun, and I got to wrestle in Saskatchewan and. At the end of the match, IRS is the one that came out and got me the victory because at the end of the match, Danny Duggan had somehow he had wrapped a chain or something around his hand and he had glommed me with that, even though the ref took away the American flag because he was going to hit me with the American flag. So the ref took that away from him. I guess he didn't notice the chain on his hand. So I grabbed Danny, went to give him a back suplex and clobbered me with the chain on his hand and I got pinned and then afterwards I come to and I'm complaining to the ref like, oh no, he hit me with something. Like there was something on his fist there that, buggered me up. And then, you hear the familiar music from the $1 Million Man, like Monday, 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 it hits. And then out comes Erwin Arsheister and he's like, yeah, no, Danny Duggan, you're a cheater. We all saw it. Everybody here saw you hit him with the chain thing. And Danny denied it. And then he turned his back on IRS and IRS grabbed it right out of his trunks and showed it to the ref and the decision got reversed. And yeah, your winner in Yorkton was the Canadian Goose, thanks to the interference. I guess not even interference, but thank you to IRS, and the IRS, big deal. That's Bray Wyatt's father,
Absolutely. I was going to be like, so today, or at least in that regard, the tax man was on your side that day.
Yeah, sorry to ramble there. I probably went on and on and on.
I love when I hear you chat, man. You talk about it with like such love and intensity. How was meeting Erwin Arsheister? That's got to have been an experience, man. He is a legend.
Yeah, he was very cool. He was definitely a legend. I just liked riding in the car with him and listening to his stories. I felt so fortunate that I was, able to travel with him at portions of that tour. It was really valuable. And I learned that Bray Wyatt apparently a huge fan of Nicolas Cage.
Oh, there you go. Hey, there we go. Breaking news, apparently. Yeah. Wyndham Rotunda, Nicolas Cage, man.
Yeah, that's the scoop I'll give you from the.
That's the biggest thing you learned from IRS during that entire cycle. You're just like, man.
That's what I'm allowed to talk about.
Okay.
On podcasts,
Fair enough. Fair. Well, what would you say the biggest piece of advice you got from him in that show was? Like, if he was giving you anything, like, what did you learn most from IRS?
Well, I think that one of the things that he said that is something that was kind of directed towards everyone on the tour, and not just me specifically, but he just they want to see like real snug on the pins, like make it look like you're really trying to pin the guy, so sometimes that can be an issue,
like hook the leg, really lean in, pin on their shoulder, like put your body weight on it, don't just go like that, right?
Yeah, 100%. So that was like one of the things that he was saying. And then, you a lot of just like the regular, like slow down and make what you're doing count, that kind of stuff. So you get those kinds of advice.
You were touring during that. I think you were like one day I had sent a
Pardon me.
message to Travis Cole. You were riding with Travis Cole and Martins for that show, right?
Yeah, I sure was.
How was that for a ride? That must have been a fun ride.
I had its moments for sure. 100%. Like I get so self-conscious when I'm with those guys because like they're real like serious and like they're traveling pro wrestlers, right? And so like I feel sometimes like so like, oh gosh, do I fit in with these guys or not? I sometimes, yeah, I can be a little like timid and socially awkward around them, but I definitely appreciate the fact that they had me along, and they always treat me with a lot of
Oh,
um,
absolutely. They're great guys. But like you
yeah.
said, they're professionals, right? Like they travel constantly. They're working not just like weekly, but like almost daily, it feels like in certain times.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then like there's like road problems are gonna happen, right? Like on our way out there, we blew a tire on the way to Prince Albert or whatever. So it was like, okay, well, we could freak out here, or we could just accept that this has happened and go deal with it. Like, so
So
that's
who
kind of
bust out
what
the jack? Like who was the first back there pumping that jack to get
I
the tire?
I think it was Martins and Cole, because like I don't know how to fix a car. I have no idea. Um, but that we got it handled, and then I think they even we got to like Lloydminster or whatever, where we had just blown the tire right outside of, and we had to take it to a tire shop and wait for like an hour or whatever for them to fix the tire. And it was like, well, I sure hope we get to the Prince Albert show in time for like call time and whatnot. And we made it, so yeah, it
Where
was good.
there's a will, there's a way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And a speedy
And
tire repair shop at least as
one of
well.
my favorite parts about that whole touring and thing, and like even I went to Manitoba last year for CWE to do their Lilac Resort show, and one of my favorite things is just all the cool people you get to meet, like other wrestlers from the other territory and stuff. Like you go in and like everybody's always so welcoming, and it's just awesome, you know. It's
Ab-
it Yeah, it's cool. It's so cool because like when people come here to RCW, like I make a point to be like, hey, welcome to our locker room and thank you for coming, and so that when I go to another locker room and people treat me like that, I really appreciate it.
This is one of the things it's one of the weirdest things for me coming into the business, really as an outsider. And I hate to break the fourth wall here just a little bit, but there's a huge amount of respect. And like in the locker room, when you go back there, people, they will go up, they will introduce themselves, even if they don't have any idea who you are. But it's like a real camaraderie when you go into the locker room. And that was something that I really had to learn, was to go up to people and introduce myself and show that kind of respect, because like I'm a timid guy myself. Like I'm socially awkward, especially because I'm not a wrestler. It feels weird whenever I'm in a locker room or I'm getting back there. Everybody's super welcoming of me, don't get me wrong, but it's just that like I want to make sure that I'm being as respectful to them as they are to me, because it's like a huge amount of respect when you enter a locker room. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like, and I mean, I'm not trying to be like rude or whatever, but I'm kind of wondering, what were you doing in the locker room? Like were you ring announcing or something on a show I'm unaware of or something?
Oh, like for instance, I helped out at the We're Live Pal show in Edmonton. Like I did the ring bell and stuff like that. I was helping up setting up the show beforehand and stuff. So like I wasn't like in there during like call time or anything, but like beforehand, before a show, after a show, things like that.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, like, I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, the locker room's a sacred place and nobody else should be able to come in here. But like, I definitely, like, if I notice somebody that I haven't seen in the locker room before, I'll be like, I wonder who that is, and I'll sometimes even ask or walk up and be like, hi, I'm Kyle, and try
Absolutely.
and
And that's what I
figure
mean
out
about
what's going
showing
on.
that
Because
respect, making sure people know who you are, right? Because like the last
yeah,
thing you want to do is like all of a sudden you want to be in a locker room and everybody's looking at you like, who's that guy? Why is he here, right? So
yeah. Well, and I mean, because it is like a private area, right? Like the as a wrestler, like you don't like the locker room is like the sacred place where we're gonna go over what we're gonna do in the match, and where there's obviously like people are getting changed and stuff. So like
yeah.
there is like when I first became a ring announcer, I honestly didn't even go in the locker room for like the first, like, oh, I don't know, it might have been 6 months.
Yeah.
And like never went in the locker room unless it was like full on, like I had to get like some info for the show, and the only way was for me to go back there. And then eventually I think it was like Squig's wife was like, hey, like you're ring announcing, like you're performing, you can go back there and get changed, and you can go back there and ask guys for their info and stuff. Like you don't have to feel bad about like that. And so like that's when I first like actually started like feeling comfortable enough to be like, okay, I'm allowed in the locker room.
Absolutely. Actually, this is a great kind of segue into this, because the way it worked for you as well is you started off as a ring announcer, right? Like you came in, you did ring announcing, you did like managing there for a little bit, you transitioned into a wrestler. How has that been? Because like you've kind of done a jack of all trades when it comes to the world of wrestling.
Yeah, sort of. Like I mean, when I first started, I was really just did like I would help set up the ring. I'd
Yeah.
come to the show and offer to help set up the ring and stuff. And then like I wanted to be trained, so like the guy that knew this was all way back in like 2005, 2006 in Victoria when it first started, like helping at shows and stuff. And so I was just doing that, and then they saw that I had some enthusiasm for it, maybe not any talent at that time, but it's enthusiasm. So they actually gave me like a interview spot on a show where I got to interview a guy, and some guys beat me up or whatever. And then another guy comes out, makes a save for me. And so that was all like really fun stuff. But that's where I started and doing that kind of stuff. And then when I came out here to Alberta, I just messaged Squig and was like, hey, I've helped out at shows doing this and that, music and ring crew and whatever. I'm happy to like drive guys back and forth to the hotel or whatever from the, how I can help however I want. If you need me to do music, I'll do music. So I did music for RCW for a while. And then one day Squig was driving from Edmonton to Calgary or vice versa. It was him and Jesse Neal from TNA. And there might have been one or two other guys with them, and their car broke down right outside of Red Deer. So I went to help them because I lived in Red Deer at the time, and we all went for dinner. And Squig was like, "Oh, well, like, what are your aspirations here? What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I'd love to like be a ring announcer or ringside manager, or referee, just to be involved in some way in the performance of the show, right?" And so we went for breakfast and that, and then got Squig and Jesse Neal on their way. And eventually, like a couple weeks later, Squig hit me up and was like, hey, I need a ring announcer tonight in Red Deer. Would you be down? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I went down to Calgary and ring announced that show. It was the first time ever. I remember one of the tag teams there was tag team champions in like 14 different countries, or not countries, but 14 different companies across Canada. Wow. Yeah, it was Blazing Dick. You know those guys?
I don't know.
I think it's Dick Blood and Billy Blaze. Anyway, they had, so they wrote up like a whole thing and wanted me to announce like every single company that they held championship gold in, which was literally like 14 different companies across like the prairies or whatever. And they were doing this to rib me because I told them it was my first time ring announcing, but I went out and did it anyway. And then eventually, I think right after intermission, Scott Lee Crew like took over and did the rest of the ring announcing for the rest of that day because I was so terrible. But I just stuck with it, and I took some good advice and I took some bad advice, and I learned the difference between the two, and I was able to kind of gain a reputation for being a pretty good ring announcer. And then I kept doing the ring announcing and I loved it. But the problem with the ring announcing, as far as I was concerned, is that like nobody's coming to these shows to watch the ring announcer, So
is that what made you really want to get in as a performer and start doing that? Like, be it a manager or a wrestler?
Yeah, like I got to have a little bit of a spotlight on me from doing various Archer Report things and stuff like that. That all started when I was a ring announcer too, right? And then in September of 2018 is when I first moved from Red Deer to Edmonton. and I actually moved into Squig's house, and I lived at Squig's house, but I trained at Andrew Hawks's house because Andrew Hawks, the saltwater savage from the Newfoundland Viking Rage, he had a ring in his yard, in his backyard, and was just saying, hey, if anybody wants to come down and stay sharp or do some, extra training, you roll around in the yard, I'd be happy to, allow you to come down and do that and show you some stuff. And then I was like, hey, can I come and train? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So I ended up going down there and starting my training with Andrew Hawk. And then eventually, like I say, the ring was in his yard, and we do live in Alberta. So nobody wanted to wrestle in the snow. It wouldn't be safe to do so. So eventually the training kind of stopped, and Hawks actually moved back to Newfoundland. And at that point, I kind of was only doing like small little out of town shows every once in a blue moon. And then I saw the little message from MRB that said that he was joining up with Tex Gaines Force Wrestling or whatnot.
Right.
And I went and I started training under him. And so then I started training under MRB with Zoe Seger and with Sid Greed and Taryn from accounting. And we had our own little like thing there going, and we did the clandestine society show went at the place where we trained. It was held at that warehouse.
Yeah, that warehouse in Edmonton.
Yeah, and then we did that for a while, and then I guess Tex eventually like lost the access to the warehouse or whatnot, and we weren't able to find another place to put up the ring for the Force Training Center. But then Metal opened up the Top Talent Wrestling Center, and I joined up with Metal's camp as an RCW like wrestler, and I've been with his camp ever since. So,
do you often do those 2-day mini camps that he holds like every so often, or are you doing full on training as well?
Once in a while we'll go to something like that, but like it's also like I know that MRB and Metal, like they charge people like a fair amount of money for those mini camps and stuff, and so like if I don't have the money to offer up, then I kind of just like stay away, because like if I'm gonna do that, I should pay the same amount as everyone else. But if they ask me to come, I'm absolutely I'm there. But I also like I'll go during the week. Yeah. So I love it. There is times when I can't get down there for whatever reason, and sometimes that really sucks. I've actually got a pretty gnarly knee injury.
No.
At the moment.
What happened?
Yeah. I don't know if I even really want to get into it, because it's not a positive thing for me. And I'm trying to like gratitude is the attitude, but yeah, like I injured my knee back in October, and there's some torn ligaments and stuff and whatnot, and it's uncomfortable and whatnot, but like everything was going fine. And then just during my match on Saturday, I was wrestling Kat Von Hees, and at the end of the match, she put me in the Shattered Dreams that Gold Dust does, where your legs are spread on the middle rope in the corner, and then they run across the ring and boot you in the nuts, right? Well, after she booted me in the nuts, I tried to awkwardly pull my legs out of the ropes and stuff, and just like I guess the way my foot hooked on the rope or whatever, I don't know, when I pulled it out, I tweaked my knee in some way, and I've been having trouble standing for the last couple of days.
I'm sorry to hear that, bro.
I can't really straighten my leg out, so I'm hoping that it's just one of those things that's going to clear up in a few days, and it's going to be fine, right? Like it actually a few months ago, I was chain wrestling with somebody, and they drop toe holded me, and I just kind of wasn't expecting that to happen, and just kind of like it was one of those things where I just didn't react properly, and I went down in an awkward way, and it was like, oh no, now I've hurt my knee again. And it's like, like I'm not a wimp. I have wrestled with injuries and stuff, but if I can hardly stand, and like I'm trying to like run or something, and my leg gives out and I fall down, that's going to be pretty embarrassing. So at the moment, I'm just kind of resting it and hoping that rest and ice will help it, and that by the end of the month, hopefully, I'll be able to wrestle again.
I hope so, man. That really sucks. It's always like the weird little things that will take people out. Like it's never like the big spot that like looks like it destroys a person that hurts somebody. I had a friend.
I know. I totally wish I could have come on here and been like, yeah, then I got Cat Von He's down on a table on the floor, and I went up to the top turnbuckle and I did a double rotation moonsault and I hurt my knee. I wish I could say something.
You would have been fine if you did that, right? It's the small thing
like,
that always hurts you.
Yeah,
I had a friend who tweaked his neck, literally had to go to the hospital because he looked out a window because he just did this. Like he just turned his head slightly to the right, tweaked his neck, couldn't move, had to go to the hospital. He was like 30 at the time. I'm just like, we're all falling apart these days. It's the weirdest thing.
It was, and it's a bummer because like I say, but you know, and it's definitely like I hold no ill will towards Kat. Like it wasn't her fault at all. Like it just, like I say, it just was a pre-existing injury that got aggravated, and hopefully won't be that big of an issue. But
things happen. It's just a thing that happens, right? Like, unfortunately, if you want to be a wrestler, you're going to have to accept that you're probably going to get hurt from time to time, unless your name is The Miz. I don't know how he's managed that, but good for him.
And I mean, like I say, most of the time, like one of the things about wrestling I heard is that like it's like making music, but we get to choose the notes, right? So as as long as I haven't been doing like stuff where I have to jump and land on my feet, I seem to have been fine. So like as long as I haven't been doing like leapfrogs or up and overs and stuff, my leg seems to be okay, and it has been. But like that's where I'm at right now. Is I just want it to be okay, and I didn't even want to talk about it now, and now I won't even shut up about it. You know,
what you're trying to say at the end of the day is, if you were lucky enough to be in Yorkton, you probably got to see the goose fly for one of the last times for the last little while his knees.
I hope, like that's what I'm trying to say is I hope not. No, I hope I get to have like a long and less.
Oh, I just meant while you're healing. I don't mean like the last time. I just mean the last time for a little bit while you're healing up, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I'll have to start just doing much more dangerous stuff so that when I do hurt myself, I have a cool story, and it's not, I was awkwardly pulling my foot off the rope as I was trying to get out of this weird position. Like, it was like I say, like it was like a RVD broke his leg doing a baseball slide, you know, like
Mr. McMahon tore both his quads literally just entering the ring, right? Like things happen. What I was going to say, if you're going to start doing some crazy moves, we want to start seeing like the top rope, like we'll just go like a somersault into like some sort of like elbow drop through a table or something. You'll be fine. You'll just walk away from that. You'll leave the ring though, and you'll like tweak your toe like on the ring step. You're like,
Well, I did do I did a moonsault to the floor. I was in an 8-man tag.
Jesus.
And I did a moonsault to the floor onto like, you know, Vince Austin and Giant Orion and Matt Hart, and Tyler Knox was in that. And, you know, a couple of my partners were there, Machete and Sid Greed.
Just crushing everyone. You're just
I did the one where you go up on the corner, and like Kenny Omega kind of just does the moonsault from the middle rope of the corner to the floor onto the guys. And I did that one like 4 or 5 days after I had got the prognosis back from my doctors, and MRB was like, "What are you doing? You're crazy! Like you just heard about your knee, like and you're doing a moonsault to the floor." And it's like, well, it's buggered. What's worse that can happen? Might as well go
more
hard now,
buggered,
you know?
Right? Like, well, you might
so.
like you said, you go down in a blaze of glory, right? Like if you're gonna go out injured, you might as well be doing it landing on 7 other people, right? Like
100% doing something cool.
What would you say your favorite move to do is? Because it sounds like you're doing some pretty insane things, right? Like you and me had a very similar body type for like a very long time, and I couldn't even imagine doing something off like the first rope, right? Like you're up here doing like moon somersaults, you're flipping out of the ring. How did that Kyle Shock come about? Because that's not easy.
That a lot of that is credit to at least I would credit it to heavy metal, and I do say credit, not blame, because like because like he pushed me to do some like cool lucha stuff, right? And like there'd be times where they're like, okay, and then you jump on, we're in training, and he's just getting us to do this wacky drill, and is okay, and then you do a springboard arm drag off the ropes. And I'm like, wait, I can't do a springboard arm drag. Like, take a look at me. Do you think I could do it? And he was like, yeah, absolutely, you can do one, right? And then he just makes me do it. And then once I realize, oh, I can actually do it, like you kind of gain a little bit of confidence in yourself. Like self-confidence and confidence in myself is my biggest like weakness in wrestling, because like I have so much like second guessing of my own, like, because I have like obviously like it's not something I've kept secret, but I have like Asperger's syndrome and some mental health stuff that plagues me. And so like just getting on myself is one of my biggest things. But like he would push me and he'd be like, no, you can do that. And then after you've done it a couple of times, you're like, oh, sick, I can do that. Like, like flying head scissors. He actually, because like I would take the flying head scissors from people, and then he was like, well, why don't you do one on somebody? I was like, well, because like there's no way I can. And then he showed me how to do it, and ever since then it was like, okay, after he showed me how to do it, it was like, oh, well, what if I did it this way? And I went all the way and like got put down on my feet and then did a Russian leg sweep on the guy, like he's just like, you go from one thing where you're like, oh, this is cool, what if I add to it now? Like that's one of the creative little things I love about wrestling. And I love to come up with my own little ideas and little things that I haven't seen other people do and stuff. Like I think in the last little while, I've sort of come up with like 3 little movements that I've never seen anyone else do in matches and whatnot. Well, one's a little movement, one's like a huge finishing move, and one's like a kind of a medium style move. So I've got one where we're fighting around, right? And we're exchanging a couple of waist locks. So it's like waist lock, then the guy reverses it into another waist lock, and that guy reverses it into a waist lock. And then one guy goes for a schoolboy, but they're just too close to the ropes. So the guy getting schoolboy ends up bouncing off the middle rope and does a little front roll, right? And then he can duck a clothesline and do something cool to the guy.
Well, sounds like a cool little sequence. I totally want to see that. Next time I'm at one of your shows, I'll see you before the match and I'll be like, yo, do the thing.
I've done that one in matches, and it is cool. It's a fun little one. And then there was another one I came up with where I picked the guy up, and like I don't do a lot of power moves, but this was one I came up with where I hold the guy and I do like a running British Bulldog style power slam, but I also do a front roll at the same time and spring back up to my feet. So I like slam them and roll all the way to my feet. Up.
That's really cool too. Like just keeping the momentum. It's like this would make sense if you could keep the roll going.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not super graceful. So the one time I did do it in a match, I did it, and I did get back up to my feet. But you do see that, oh, I clearly I put my hands down there, so I could get back up to my feet. But is what it is. The idea got across, and then right after I did the flipping power slam with the roll, which was the one I haven't seen. I did like a cartwheel where I land sort of in a moonsault on top of the guy. And then the other one that I came up with was Sister Abigail of Death, is what I call it, which is basically you'll have the guy like sitting on the middle rope, and then you grab them like you're going to give them a Sister Abigail, and you pull them out so their ankles are still draped on the rope like the Randy Orton DDT.
Right.
And then you just fucking turn and give them a Sister Abigail with their legs still draped on the ropes. So I come up with that one too, and I did that one on Son of Irish and Andrew, and that was great. That's one of my favorite matches.
Good reaction.
Yeah, it got a great reaction, and I mean, like the match in Andrew against Son of Irish, like it was fun because like got to work with, somebody as talented as Son of Irish, who basically can do anything and was down to do anything. And even though, it wasn't like we were working in front of like 93,000 people in Andrew, Alberta. It was a very, there was maybe like 30 or 40 people there. So it was a little bit of a smaller crowd, but we went out and got to do a couple of crazy things anyways. And that was one of them.
As they say, like, it doesn't matter if it's 10 people in the crowd or 10,000. You want to go out there to put on a show, right? You want to make people react. If you can make 10 people react in a 10-person audience, that can still be quite loud, right? As long as everybody's going for something, it can be quite magical. All right, we want to move into the Q&A section here. I've been having you going for a while now.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to come on here and brag about all the moves that I think I've invented.
No, man, I love hearing you talk about wrestling. That's what you're here for, right? And, I just want to say something quickly, because you had said that, it's like you're not the most graceful guy. And I just immediately remember one time I watched a goose, like, run into a parked bus. Like, it just flew into a parked bus. And as soon as you're like, I'm not that graceful, I just pictured this goose going right to the side of this
that wasn't
bus.
Me trying to tackle like
maybe you were trying to
Azrael or whatever.
Maybe you were like really mad at the bus driver. You're like, oh, get over here, and then you just try to spear the bus. But no, it was quite funny. But anyways,
have people actually submitted questions?
Yeah, we've had a couple of questions coming through.
Awesome,
here.
awesome.
Our mods are going to come collect these through. The first one, which is one that we get on every single one, which I love, is how has the all-time classic movie Ready to Rumble featuring Sting influenced your career as a wrestler?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to. I mean, like, I'm trying to stay positive here and stuff too, but I don't know if I should reveal this, but I actually saw Ready to Rumble in the theaters when it was released. Like, I'm that old.
I also am that old. Okay, so
I was stoked for it and was like totally after I watched the movie was like, yeah, no, I need to buy that one when it comes out, because they got that one scene where everybody's like laid out. There's a big double down going on in the cage match, and then the fire starts blooming out, and the Kid Rock Bob with a boss song comes on, and the lower the ramp, and he comes jumping in a motorcycle.
Yeah, and he comes in after like being like, oh, I can't wrestle, guys, I can't. And then he comes in. What's his name? Like the trooper, the law, something like
the law.
The law. Oh man, that was great. Yeah, what a great movie. I actually rewatched that again recently, like literally like 2 months ago, and it's just so much fun. You forget how good that movie really is.
It is a really it's a really great film, and I mean, I just like all the characters and stuff, and I mean, I can't tell you how like accurate a depiction it is of WCW's backstage. I mean, but there's definitely like some RCW shows where it's like, okay, if we had a lot more money, then this party would be just as off the hook as the Ready to Rumble parties, like
they looked like some pretty intense parties. I'm like, I don't remember seeing an after party quite like that, but we weren't around wrestling in those days. Like, you know what I mean? Who knows what it was like back then? I can only imagine the after parties at an actual WCW show in like 1998. You know what I mean? Absolutely insane.
I'm sure it was a good time. Mean Gene was having a good time in the movie. I remember Mean Gene got raped.
Oh, what was where the kids like, am I pretty? What was that one? Where was he like something like that? I always loved seeing Tony Schiavone. That's what I like to call him, Schiavone. There, he looks so young in that movie. Oh my gosh. Well, here's a good question. We'll move on to this one. What's your favorite match that you've ever had?
Oh. And that's that is a great question, because it's like somebody asked me recently, like, what's the best match you've ever had? And I don't know like how to answer that. But like, if you ask me like what's my favorite match, there's a couple of that come to mind, like the one that I had at the Lilac Resort in Manitoba for CWE's. It was the pre-show of their pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And it ended up being me and AJ Sanchez one-on-one, and we were like the main event of the pre-show of the pay-per-view. So that one comes to mind because it was in front of like 2,000 people.
Wow.
And they had like the full on like they had like a set Like you walked out and it was like you were walking out, and it was like wrestling at Bash at the Beach, except it was in Manitoba, which there's no beaches in Manitoba, right? Like it's
Little
but
riverside, little camps of sand is what you get there,
well,
essentially.
yeah, it was at the Lilac Resort, which is like a big water slide resort, party, have a good time, that kind of thing. And it was a really good time. But like even like yeah, like it got released on YouTube and they had like professional commentators. So that's a big one for me. The Clandestine Society show, the clusterfuck match, that was the first time I ever won a match like in as a singles wrestler. I had won a tag team match before that as the Canadian Goose, and I had won one other match before that where I portrayed a completely different character. Um, so I had only had two wins under my belt at that
And
time, and
that's a huge one
one
to
of them was
have.
yeah, and one of them was not even like I was not even the Canadian Goose. I was a different guy with a mask on, and most people don't even know about it, right?
Can you
Um,
tell us? Can you let the secret be revealed? Who was the masked Canadian Goose?
it was me, and I was wrestling with Steven Styles in Pinoca, and just for that one night, I was like, "Oh, it'll be fun if I'm a crazy cannibal guy instead, just because we're here in Pinoca, and they're known for having the Pinoca. Um, there's a mental health hospital there, so I wasn't trying to take the piss out of the mentally ill or whatever. I've actually like even spent time in the hospital in Pinoca for like mental health reasons. So I wasn't trying to take the piss out of anybody, but we were just trying to play off that angle,
It's
and yeah,
wrestling, right?
it,
I
it,
mean,
it was
like,
totally like
the
it
most
was
legendary wrestler of all time is a man who pretends to be a dead man. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
and then they literally were like, "Oh, go to the ring, do a promo." And like earlier that day, my cat had died.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a real. Well, it wasn't my cat; it was my roommate's cat. But I had assured my roommate many like occasions, like the days building up to this, that it's totally safe to let your cats go outside. They'd appreciate it. They'd like to go out there and run around and come back and whatnot. And of course, they will come back because I've had cats and I always let them go outside. It's totally fine. And then I go out that one day and I sure enough found the cat dead,
Oh.
and was so embarrassed and so upset. But then they told me to go to the ring and cut a promo. So like this was on my mind, and I was just like,
You had
I
a
think
lot
I
of emotion that day,
yeah, I
essentially.
went to the ring and I was like, I just escaped from the Pinoca mental asylum because I was wearing a mask and stuff too. And I said I was hungry, so I went to a person's house and I knocked on their door and I was trying to trick or treat, but they told me to go away because it was not Halloween. We don't have any treats for you, right? And this whole thing, like if you ever watch the video, is all like I watched the video and it's like a Danhausen promo. Like that's the kind of like inflection and like verbiage that's going on here. And then I'm like, so I went to their house and I was trick or treating and they told me to go away because it wasn't Halloween, so I ate their cat. Like it's like
Very nice, very evil
lowered
Canadian
an
Goose.
octave. Yeah, I ate their
I ate their
cat.
cat.
Yeah, and then I want you to send me out the biggest, juiciest, most delicious wrestler you got back there. And then, of course, they send Squig out, right? And me and him had a match that was all just walk and talk comedy nonsense. And again, like the entire time, I watched it back recently and was like, oh, this is. It just reminds me of like a Danhausen thing, right? But like I wasn't aping Danhausen because at that time, Danhausen, I don't
Wasn't
even know
really
if
a
he had a
person,
date.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
I
was
don't even know if
Donovan
he had.
Danhausen at the time.
Yeah, he was like a Ring of Honor like guy. So, but yeah, there's at the one point the ref is like patting me down to like make sure I don't have any objects, and I'm like, ooh, this referee's touching me. He's my friend,
Eat
like
the ref.
yeah,
This
yeah.
actually leads into another question here because you said you just went through that match as a comedy match. What is your favorite style of wrestling?
Um, Ooh, it's I just like having like a like old school like match where the people are behind me, or like I just want the people making noise. So like I'm not big into going out there and like you know destroying my body with weapons or trying to do a bunch of like crazy stuff that is probably going to result in me getting hurt. but my focus every time I go to the ring is to make the crowd make noise. Like that's what I feel like I'm pretty good at
Would you
doing.
say your favorite, like, you like being the baby face, then over the heel, you like to get that, like, adoration from the crowd kind of a thing?
Not necessarily that I like to be the baby face over the heel. I mean, I do like getting a good baby face reaction where I can tell, okay, these people are into me. But I also love it when I'm in the ring and the other person's getting that reaction because of the like hard work that I'm putting in, or they're act like legitimately like when I last few matches I've had, like the crowd just chants "kill the goose" almost the whole time.
I assume these are the RCW shows because they love you in CWE.
And Goose sucks. They'll chant that too, but like I hope that they're chanting that because they're angry with my character and not displeased with my ring work. And even
I've heard you be over in RCW before, right? So it's the crowd just is going along with what's being told to them.
Yeah. So like I say, if you ask what's my favorite kind of match to be in, it's just regular matches. I do have a soft spot for like 6-man tags. I tend to get thrown into those a lot. And it's gotten to the point now where like I have certain opponents where it's a 6-man tag. So we'll literally be like, okay, so quick little shine up here with him and him, right? And then him and me, and then okay, we'll put a heat on that guy. All right, you get the hot coming. Okay, I'll see you out there. Like that's the extent of of some of the planning that goes into the 6-man tags, which is like I'm not saying that to be like oh, we don't have to do any work or anything. It's just that we're so comfortable working with each other now that we just improvise it and do it on the fly, so.
Do you have like a favorite person that you like to work with? Like, who would you say when you get in the ring with? It's like super smooth because you've been in there 1,000 times. Like you could wrestle without even saying a word if you needed to.
Oh, I don't have anyone like that at this point. Everyone I work with, I would like to be able to communicate with. I think that if you ask me who I've had the most matches against, it would probably be Vince Austin.
Okay, yeah.
At this point, and then in CWE would be Danny Duggan. I've had the most matches against him in CWE.
The last match of yours that I saw live was towards the tail end of last year. I came up to Edmonton for a show. It was in Sherwood Park, I think, or St. Albert, and you had wrestling Danny Duggan, and that show was a CWE show. So I love Danny Duggan. He was at my first show I ever went to as in Alberta Independent show, which was a CWE show. And I got to say, he puts on really great shows. He has great talent. You talked to AJ Sanchez earlier today. Like the people that he surrounds himself with, all super freaking amazing. AJ Sanchez, like, I don't know how that guy can do what he does, especially for his size. Like he plays the big man, but he's like the most agile big man I've ever seen. It's amazing.
Yeah. He's tremendous, and you look up and you're like laying there and you're looking up and you're like, oh no, he's gonna moonsault. I'm getting out of the way. Like I don't know if anyone has actually taken that moonsault because I'm pretty sure everyone is just like, come hell or high water, you're gonna pull every last ounce you have of breath to just get out of the way because if he lands on you, done. Like
it's an effective finisher if he lands.
Yeah. Sanchez is one of my absolute favorite people that I wrestled because like it does go so smoothly just because of the way that he's he has just like that much experience, right? And you're out there and the communication that you can have with a guy like Sanchez who's an expert at communicating in the ring without letting the fans know that's what's going on. It's just so effective. And so like I love wrestling with him. I like I say, I had a tremendous amount of fun wrestling with Son of Irish. I want to have more matches with him. I'd love to wrestle Son of Irish on like a Love Wrestling show, like a big stage where when we do like a bunch of cool things, like it's like people are going to see it and be able to share it around and it's going to like really mean something.
I love those love shows. I got to go up to one. I was up at the last one, thankfully. Excuse me. And I should be back for the August show. I don't know where this cough came from. One second. Excuse me. Yeah, so I should be back for the August show as well. That's a really fun show. The Rec Room, what a great place. It's a really fun little venue. I love just getting, like last time I was sitting there, I was just in like the corner, like on the floor, just watching it. It was super great. Thad came up to me. We did an Archer report. I love pro wrestling. That's great. Hopefully I'll see you at the next one that'll be at August. Hopefully you'll be there. If not else, I owe you a hug and at least a drink or something at this point. I'll get you something.
Yeah, I would love to be a part of it for sure. I know, like, as I was on the pre-show battle royal for the first one, and then I was able to do some commentary on the second one there, and then so sometimes like if I'd love to be on all their shows and stuff, but like there's a lot of wrestling promotions that are running in Alberta right now. So like,
what a time to be a wrestler, hey?
If they don't have a match for me at Love, I'm happy to do a match for Steven Styles, or to go and do matches for Danny Duggan.
The Goose is available for bookings, as you would say.
100%. I mean, yes. Like as soon as this thing with my knee is taken care of and my knee starts to feel good, I want to wrestle all over the place. Like right now, my biggest like goal, like the one thing where I'm like, okay, I really, really want to do this before like I have to finish up wrestling is I want to go wrestle on Vancouver Island. I have all my family and schoolhood that doesn't childhood friends all live in Victoria on Vancouver Island, and so my biggest goal right now is to get over there and to wrestle over there so that all of my friends and family can come and watch. And I was very fortunate. Squig recently brought in BJ Laredo, who is one of the promoters for Vancouver Island Wrestling.
Oh, perfect. I was just going to say, I don't really know any of the promotions there on Vancouver Island specifically. I know WrestleCore and NEW that is wrestling and stuff like out of Vancouver specifically, but I don't actually know any of the Victoria promotions.
Yeah, well, they have Vancouver Island Pro Wrestling, which is the promoters are BJ Laredo and Cremator Von Slasher. And recently, Steven Styles just had BJ Laredo out here, and I got to face him in a one-on-one match. And after the match, BJ he seemed very happy with it. He was like, it was a great match, and thank you. And yeah, like he said they're not doing, VIPW is not having any shows in the summer, but once they start resuming, if I'm ever out there, to let him know, because they will put me in the ring, and I think it'll be beneficial to them too, because I'll sell a bunch of tickets.
Oh, for sure. I mean, at that point, you'll be a hometown person. You'll be coming in from Alberta, so that'll be a nice little surprise for them as well. And not only that, flight tickets right now are like the cheapest they've ever been to Vancouver. And
it actually probably would be cheaper for me to fly or
100%
fly there than it would to drive, because like the gas prices right now are ridiculous, especially when you go into BC. Like BC Vancouver Island is like, I love it out there and stuff, but like, yeah, I wouldn't be able to move back because
it's pricey. It's very expensive.
Just ridiculous. And literally like 70% of people that moved in Canada, like literally 70% of the people that moved in Canada have like last year moved to Vancouver Island because it's just that nice. And so, unfortunately, one of the side effects is that if you lived in Vancouver Island for the last 25 years, now you're noticing, everyone and their dog is now moving to Vancouver Island, and it's getting quite crowded around here, So, but I definitely I want to go back there, and I really, really want to wrestle for them in front of my friends and family. I know 365 Wrestling also goes on out there, which is run by Eddie Osborne.
Okay, I definitely have heard of them. I didn't realize that they were out of Victoria, though, so that's really great.
Well, they're kind of out of Victoria, Campbell River type thing.
Yeah, that whole
also,
the West Coast.
They have they have an East Coast part too, which is operating out of Ontario.
I think that's what I remembered it from. I think I remember it being from out there. Yeah. So that's cool. They do everything out there. Like you, Vancouver kind of holds a special place in my heart. You were from Victoria. My college days I spent in Burnaby and Coquitlam. So, there's a little of that BC in both of us, which is very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, that's my number one, goal. And, I mean, there's like I say, I do have like some mental, so just me saying like, oh, this is my goal and I have this goal, and like there's part of me that's like, oh, do I even have the right to have goals, or let alone come on the internet and announce what they are? But
Absolutely, man. Put them out there,
like,
right? Put it
yeah,
out in the
like
universe. Make things happen,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And I just like everywhere that I've ever gone and wrestled in front of a brand new crowd, like they've always loved it. So like, yeah. 100% getting out there and wrestling in more places is my number one goal, but especially Vancouver Island, just because there's people I want to impress out there, but there's also like I really want to go and I really want to wrestle in Newfoundland, just because of all the interviews I've done over with Monday Night Shaw. There's a fella over there, Jeremiah Javen, who every once in a while he comes online and he chirps the old Canadian Goose, and I'd just love to go out there and punch him right in his mouth.
That actually brings me up to a great question that was asked here. We will have a couple more questions before we finish up here today. But who is your favorite guest that you've had on your podcast, actually?
On Monday Night Shaw, okay, there's plenty of favorite guests. Of course, Cameron Stevens, who is another Newfoundland wrestler. I would love to
at the first ever show or CWE show I ever went to. I'm like, I know that around here wasn't around for too long, but he was one of the names I remembered from my first ever show. I'm like, Cameron Stevens was here. He was tagging at that show with Jordan Aries. Funny enough how things work out, right?
Mm-hmm. And like I love both those guys, and Cameron's been my most frequent guest on my Night Shaw. I really the ones that I feel like were like biggest names that I had on there would be Brutal Bob Evans. He's one of my all-time favorite guests on there because he was like just so down to like help me personally and stuff too, with like my ability to wrestle. And then like I had Dirty Ron McDonald on the show, who was making a bit of he was making his own movie and stuff. I don't think it actually worked out for him, but hopefully he's still working on it. And I know he's kind of become like a bit of a controversial figure, but it was cool to sit down and chat with him, because he had done some Monday Night Raw stuff too. So like I love talking to anyone like that. And then the ones that I did with Metal, MRB, those guys are always people I love having on. Friends like Taryn and Zoe. I love having those guys on too.
They're so great. Every single person you basically mentioned, they're just a great chat with, eh? And we're very lucky because, for instance, Metal does not do interviews very often. We're like one of the only people, you and I, who have ever landed a Metal interview. How cool and crazy is that?
Yeah, he was one of the first ever interviews that came on Monday Night Shaw. And honestly, at that time, it was a special thing because I had Metal on, and on the same episode, also had Ennis.
Aiden Adams?
Aiden Adams, yeah. So they were both on the same show. So it was weird because like at that time there was like there was a line in the sand, like RCW, PWA, MPW. And this was the first time where it was like, okay, yeah, I'm having heavy metal from RCW and Aiden Adams from PWA on the show. And we spent a good portion of that show talking about like the differences between being in RCW and being in PWA. And at that point, I wasn't even like wrestling yet. I don't think I may have just been like had like my first match or whatever. But yeah, so that was a fun one because it was like, okay, this is like, the forbidden doors are being broken right here on Monday Night Shaw,
I love that, especially back then, because like when I first stepped into this scene, there was very much a separation, right? Like PWA did not go to MPW. There was a huge separation there, but these days the lines have definitely been blurred, which is fantastic.
We did a couple of like Alberta Mania like centric like fantasy booking wrestling themed episodes of Monday Night Shaw, where the theme of the episode was like if we could have wrestlers from every promotion come together and have a match, or have like a match card of Alberta Mania, Like, what would our matches be? And now it's like, oh, well, Clandestine Society does this, Top Talent Wrestling does it, Love Wrestling does it. Like, there's no need for me to do Alberta Mania wrestling show, like fantasy wrestling shows anymore, because it's not a fantasy.
Even RCW brings in PWA guys, right? Like Thickness is wrestled for their.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's a perfect example. Like Thickness is definitely a PWA guy. He's their Mayhem champion, but he goes over and wrestles for RCW. It's
yeah.
Excuse me.
And Thickness is one of those guys too. Like I got like a little list of guys that I have yet to be able to have like one-on-one matches with, and Thickness is high on that list for sure.
I'm a big fan of the Thickness. I would anytime somebody says they want to wrestle the Thickness, I'm like, I'm down to watch that. I have a couple last quick questions here for you. If you were to give advice to somebody just getting started or thinking about getting started in wrestling, what advice would you give them?
Don't take advice from the Candian Goose.
Oh, that's the biggest piece of advice is don't take my advice.
Yeah. Seriously though, no, like I legitimately, like, I'm not the person to take advice from. Like, if you are breaking into Alberta professional wrestling and you want good advice, you should talk to Metal, talk to MRB. You know, those guys are going to have way better advice for you than I am.
Well, what about generic advice? Everybody can always give something, somebody starting out, right? Like, you are a professional at this. You do get paid to do it from time to time, clearly, right? So somebody's just starting out. This is like a completely brand new world to them. Like, what's the first thing? Just be respectful, go to shows, offer to set up and take down the ring, stay late. Like, what would you say to them?
I mean, all of that stuff. If you're actually in matches, like, just like the one piece of advice that gets parroted from everyone is just like, and it's something that I'm still learning to this day, is slow down. You know, like,
seize the moment.
Yeah, seize the moment, slow down, don't cut off your own heat. Like, that's one of the things that I've been learning lately. I have recently had a match with MRB, and it was one of the things that came up. It's just like, okay, you do the move and then you sell, you know, do the big
sit
move.
Sit there and let them shit on you for a minute, whatever it takes.
Yeah, and so, like, that's one of the things that I've kind of been actively trying to do more of, is like, if I'm putting a heat on somebody as a bad guy in RCW and I do a big move, I'll do the move and then I'll look around and scowl at the people, you know, or maybe I'll say something like, who sucks now, you know, like, whatever, and just like, because like we're trying to get people to make noise here, and so, like, sometimes the more effective way is not to dazzle them with a bunch of really cool moves. It's to do that one move and then scowl, and what they're reacting to is the scowl, and they're reacting to you, like, turning around and looking at them or beaking off at them, you know, like, so, like, just like, yeah, slow down and
I'm just picturing, like, angry Canadian Goose right now going, like, get off my lawn.
100%. That's kind of the whole thing. You know, I walked out on Saturday, and then the first person I walked up to was this kid that was sitting there, and he was looking at his phone, and I just, like, sat there, and I kind of, like, leaned over the barricade and looked at him, and once he noticed that I was, like, staring at him, I was just like, hey, are you enjoying the show? Yeah, put your phone down and take in the show, right? Like,
and he was just terrified. He's like, what? Oh shit, okay.
Yeah. It was just like one of those weird moments. And then I walked around the ring and somebody else was flipping me off, going, F you, Goose, F you. Like, some of these, don't get me wrong, it's a family friendly show, but they don't tend to be a lot of children at these RCW shows, so they you know, there tend to be a lot of 4-letter words said, and this guy was just, and I was like, no, dude, there's children here, you know, trying to antagonize people. So
he was like, watch your mouth, there's kids here, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah, I'm not an expert at it, but sometimes I legitimately have gotten carried away when it comes to trying to get heat and stuff, and I'm trying to actively now rely less on cheap tactics and more so, like,
I suggest just going full out on the cheap tactics. I think that's just the best way to go. Somebody comes up to you,
they
like,
do work, but I've also had situations where they you know, it works too well and it got too much heat and it got the wrong kind of heat.
Oh really?
And, you know, oh yeah, I had a situation like that recently, and it made me feel bad. And I was
Oh,
like, okay, I'm here to like antagonize people, but I don't want to legitimately make people feel bad. Like I want them to have a good time at the wrestling show, not go home feeling poorly about themselves because of something I said to them. Like that's not what I'm about. You know, I want you to be angry with the Canadian Goose, but they want it to be the kind of anger where you want to see me get my ass kicked, not the kind of angry where you now
want to
feel
get
bad,
your ass kicked by
bad
this
about
person?
yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like yeah. So.
I don't know. I think I would just be the worst heel. I think I would just come in and just try to be like the gentleman kind of guy. I have to be all prim and proper, and then I would come in and just start insulting people. I think that's what I would do. I'm not a very creative person. I'd be like, they come in, they start swearing, and be like, "What? You kiss your mother with that mouth?" Because I do. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Some of that old tried and true stuff does work, and I definitely want to keep some of that stuff with it. But it's like, yeah, you gotta know when to rein yourself in sometimes too.
oh, for sure. Well, we've got a couple. We have one last quick question here that I want to ask, and then we'll get into your big announcement because I know we're excited for that one. But let's end off with this one because I think it's quite funny. Can we see the footage of the Pinoca cat match?
Pinoca. Oh, the match where I said the promo.
Yeah, where you said you ate the cat.
The only place I know where the footage is on Steven Styles'
YouTube page.
No, it's on his girlfriend's Facebook page. That's the only place where I know the match is, and I know she's like not. If you're not friends with her or whatever, you can't access. You
got to get access to this cat match. We want to see this.
It's not even, I wouldn't even call it a cat match because that implies that I wrestled like Cat Von Hees or Kato or somebody like that. No,
we want to see your masked Pinoca insane match where you played a person who ate a cat earlier in the day. How's that?
It's not a good match. Like,
I think that's the point is people want to see this,
good.
right?
Yeah.
We want to see early day Kyle Shaw because this is your first win. It's in Pinoca and you had just eaten a cat. So, I mean, like, the things were really...
it's me versus Steven Styles.
Yeah, exactly. And you got the win. All right. Actually, let's take a second there. You have a big announcement here. I assume it's Monday Night Shaw related because you said it was Monday Night Shaw related. What's your big announcement? I'm super excited to hear this.
Well, the thing is that with Backbreaker Media recently closing down their podcast division. I guess that's how you would describe it. Anyway, I guess there was like there was a financial element that I was going into that I was not even aware of. Like I guess Mike the ref was paying some money to have this stuff hosted and whatnot. And then he came to me and was like, "Oh, it's not really financially viable for me to continue doing this." And I was like, "Well, I didn't even know that you were doing that. Thank you." For doing it for so long.
Mike's great for that kind of stuff. He's a very selfless person in that regard.
Yeah. So anyway, though, he has had to shut down his podcast division. And so the big news is, I don't know if this can be a surprise to anyone. Monday Night Shaw is moving over to Love Wrestling.
That's amazing. When do you have a scheduled date for when you want to start the return of the podcast?
I actually was talking with Spencer the other day, and I have the first interview scheduled to be recorded because it's going to be Monday Night Shaw is going to be it's going to be like bi-weekly pre-recorded interviews and stuff. I'm not going to be doing them live. Like I was trying to do live interviews on Love Wrestling, and we were calling it the Goose Call, but it's as you know, like me and you are doing a live interview right now. It was easy with me, but it can be sometimes very difficult to line up, just like to schedule the interviews with people and to make sure that everybody lines up to come on at the exact right time and do everything live. Like it's very cumbersome. So we're going to be doing them pre-recorded, but the idea that Spencer Love has proposed to me is to have the first interview out in time to be released around the same time as the LPW6 show goes down. And the first guest is going to be Bobby Sharp.
That's amazing. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I was also in chats with Bobby here. He's a fantastic guy now that he's back. I'm super excited that you've landed that. When is that one? You said it's going to be probably the end of this month, right?
Yeah. It's going to be airing on the same weekend as the LPW 6. What are they calling it? something Lost in Paradise.
Yeah, something like that. I saw with the picture with the circle on the faces, and
yeah, I
Zach
honestly
hates faces. He just never puts
Yeah.
faces on the pictures. He just covers the faces.
No, Zach has been doing some very creative poster work for LPW, and I've been very impressed with everything that Zach has done. He actually made this design here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
I don't actually have access to it, but yeah, this design here was made by Zach.
Zach is great. I was just saying that for whatever reason in the posters, like the last two ones, he's had their faces completely covered in like every single one. I'm like, that's just the aesthetic. But I was like, he hates faces.
And there's other ones where he's like photoshopped sunglasses onto everybody's
exactly. So you don't
stuff.
get to see them, right? It's all just like they cover up the face, right?
Yeah, and then the first one was just like doodle approximations of everybody's face.
I loved that one. That was very cool, like mid 90s YTV style.
Yeah, no, Zach is everything he's done for Love Wrestling has been really creative, and I'm looking forward to what all the work he's going to be putting in because he's making new logos and stuff for Monday Night Shaw and whatnot. So
that's amazing to hear.
I'm really stoked to see what he comes up with. Because he's everyone over at Love Wrestling is super talented, and that's one of the reasons why I feel so fortunate that I get to be involved with them. You know, whether I perform on their wrestling shows or not, I'm proud to be involved, and I'm happy to promote them and stuff because I think what they are doing in Alberta, whether you're just talking about Love Wrestling or you're talking about Love Pro Wrestling, where they're actually putting on shows, I think that everything they're doing has been fantastic, and I'm a really big supporter of it.
Absolutely. I'm really happy for you, man. I'm proud that you're going to be starting the show back up and you're going to have Bobby Sharp on there. That's amazing. So congratulations. That is some huge news there. But we will end that.
I mean, I don't mean to curse or jinx the Bobby Sharp thing. I have a plan. We're set up to record tomorrow with Bobby. It hasn't been recorded yet, but as it stands right now, Bobby Sharp is
as you've said, the live thing can be a bit of a headache sometimes. I appreciate that's something that you see when I take care of this because thankfully I've done pretty good the last couple of weeks. I've only had to take a break when I went up to Edmonton, but otherwise people have shown up. I've been very fortunate about that. But we are going to end this here today. We're already at an hour and 15. So give your plugs, and then I have some little announcements myself. But go ahead. Where can people find you? Where are you wrestling next? Where's the Goose going to be?
Well, of course, you can find me for Real Canadian Wrestling, and RCW is running weekly. We're doing shows in Calgary, Edmonton. Occasionally, once in a while, there's a little bit of a different scheduling thing. I think that they've got some of the scheduling has been a little rearranged, so keep an eye out on the RCW Facebook page or whatnot for all the dates that are coming up there. Usually if there's an RCW show running, I'm there at some capacity normally. So RCW in Calgary and Edmonton. Also, there's a couple of CWE shows that I've agreed to be a part of that are coming up that are going to also involve Chris Masters from the WWE. I don't think that I'm going to be involved. I don't think I'm wrestling Chris Masters or anything like that. But there's the 22nd and the 23rd in Medicine Hat and Calgary for CWE. I'm going to be a part of those shows and whatnot, and so I'm looking forward to all that. And I'm hoping that my knee will hold up.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. You'll have to let us know, of course. Keep that thing nicely iced, though, because I was thinking about going to that Chris Masters show, the one that's coming to Calgary. So let me know if you'll be a part of it, because if you'll be there, I owe you a drink, like I said. If not, I'll find you in Edmonton one of these days.
I will say this. When I originally injured my knee, I sustained the injury on a Wednesday, and I actually, despite the fact that I could hardly walk or put any weight on it, I wrestled in the CWE in Grand Prairie on Friday. So was it a smart thing to do? No, probably not. But I try not to let these things get me down. I just don't want anyone to think I'm like a pussy or whatever, you know?
No, you just want to take care of yourself, right? You just want to make sure that you're doing your best. I completely understand.
100%. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with this is I have to let it get to at least heal to a certain point. Otherwise it's going, because if it gets worse, then it'll just hamper me for longer. And I want to be out of the ring as least amount of time as we can, because I love doing it. I love this.
100%. And we love watching you wrestle, man. I always love being in the crowd. You know me, I'm always there honking as loud as I possibly can whenever I'm in one of your crowds.
I love having you out because you're so enthusiastic and whatnot, you know, like those are my favorite fans, are the ones that are there and that are really into it. Like the ones that come out and they're like on their phone, like that other guy. Like I'd like them because they're coming and they're you know, they're obviously buying a ticket and that money helps us out, whatnot. But I want the people that are there to enjoy the show, you know, to enjoy what I'm doing. Because, like, I think those are the people that make the most noise for me, you know, because they can tell, those are the ones that can tell that I'm out there trying my hardest to entertain them, you know?
For sure. Well, you got to win over those people on the phones at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Once those honks calls start, people will turn their heads and they'll start honking, right? But 100%. Dude, thank you so much for joining me here today. This was such a great chat. I love always chatting with you. It's always such a fun time.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you having me on and whatnot. I wish I had more things to plug and tell you to come and watch. But yeah, stay tuned to all my social medias as well. I have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatnot. I did sign up recently for Twitch, but I don't know how to use it. Or not Twitch, what's the one? TikTok. Yeah, TikTok. I signed up for TikTok, but I don't know how to use it yet. So
I'm still learning it. I've just tried picking it up in the last couple of months. I'm not very good at it. People just send me things. I watch them, and I'm like, okay, that's good. And then I leave the program. I'm the worst.
Well, one of the guys out in Saskatchewan told me that he had filmed the show for it. So I signed up for it to try and find the footage from the show, but I couldn't find it. So if you know where the CWE Saskatchewan footage on TikTok is located, please shoot me a link so I can watch the matches. But anyway, Anthony, I had a great time coming on here, and I really appreciate you asking me to, because any exposure that I'm able to get is always really helpful towards me.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I'm here to do, man. I always love telling people stories and sharing their stories with people, right? You know what I mean? Like, actually, I'm super excited for my next announcement. If you'd like to, you can stick around for this one if you'd like. So
yeah, and I just want to go and tell this too, because like I know that I was asking earlier about you being in the locker room, and I just want to say that I have gone to bat a couple of times to Squig to say, when he's like, "Oh, I know, we need a new ring announcer. Who should I use?" I have thrown your name out there a couple of times.
I appreciate that so much, buddy. I don't know how I would be as a ring announcer. I
think you would do great.
I think I did pretty good at ring bell. I will tell you that. I got to do the We're Live Pal ring bell, and I'm just gonna put that out there. It's a pretty damn good ring bell, I'm not gonna lie.
Solid.
All right, but here's the big announcement that I have, because we were talking about that. You are a BC boy, but you started wrestling here in Alberta. We are having our very first ever Vancouver, BC interview. We will be interviewing Uncle Daddy Tony Baroni, a legend out there in the Vancouver scene. He's been wrestling out there for a very long time. There's no better person for me to break into that scene with and start talking about the Vancouver scene, learning a couple of things about it, talk a little bit about my college days and see what's been going on around there. But I'm super excited for this one. The guy is apparently a treasure trove of knowledge, knows that scene like the inside or like the back of his hand. So I can't wait. Tony, and look at the guy. What a great photo. What a great look this guy has. Uncle Daddy, Tony Baroni. So I'm super excited for that one. It'll be my first little soiree into the Vancouver scene. So continuing to try to spread as much Canadian love as I possibly can here on Wrestlesode and tell as many stories. So I'm super excited for that one. That's going to be great.
Solid. Yeah, that looks great. And like I say, I'm so confident in your ring announcing abilities that if you really need to book a ring announcer for your show, I'm sure Anthony will bring the Candian Goose to wrestle as well. So
I will do my absolute best. There you go.
Car loaded out to your show.
Anybody who's listening, you need that last minute ring announcer. I will do my best for you. I am good at keeping a crowd going as long as I'm not coughing in their ear.
I'll give them the crash course on the way down to the show.
Right? Mispronounce every name, screw up where they're from, don't say any of their finishing moves. Wrong person.
I mean, I don't know why you would need to mention their finishing moves. That would be a little weird. But,
because nobody else does. So I'll be like, coming to the ring, waiting to do the rock bottom.
Now, on his way to the ring, he hails from the Doom Lagoon and is the master of the Untitled Goose move. Yeah.
This person coming to the ring has a chest FIDE rating of only 648. I would just be so rude. I'd be like a heel announcer. Oh, that'd be great. Anyways, thank you so much, buddy. I will leave you here for today, but I will send you a message after this. But thank you so much.
Awesome possum, bud. Thank you very much for having me on again, like I say, and I hope everybody watching was entertained.
Perfect. Thank you so much, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you then.
Bye. A big thank you once again to Kyle Shaw for joining me here today. It was always a really great time to be able to sit down and chat with him, to ask some questions, to learn about his life and what he's been up to, and of course his journey so far. It's always a really fun time. Kyle's a great guy, and like I said, he was one of the first people I ever got to interview when I joined this fun world of wrestling that I've gotten myself into back as a media person back in 2019, so that was really fun. Anyways, so tonight, if you are watching this on August 2nd over at twitch.tv/JupiterVision at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, we will be interviewing Gigi Ray. As I said in the intro, she has been all over the place recently, and I'm really excited for that. Don't forget to follow the social medias. We have Kyle Shaw here. He listed everything below. If you like us here, I don't actually save these, but you can follow me on Twitter at Wrestlesode. That's where I am most active. And where I post most of my cool stuff. And a big thank you, of course, to our sponsors, the Canadian Wrestling Archive. We have people like Backbreaker Video. We have RK Athletics. We have DY Chart Imports. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that are doing a lot of great stuff here for Wrestlesode, and I just want to say thank you to them as well. I'll see you all soon, very soon. I'll talk to you. Bye. Bye.